what's happening there. But let's bring in Thierry Laurent. I think he's ready in the green room right now, and we'll talk about Maidan and how it correlates to what's happening with No Kings protests here across the country tomorrow. And Thierry, thanks for coming on this morning. And I had you first in the first part of the show, and then I moved you because of the Israeli attack. But I think you're spot on with this, what's behind these demonstrations, as this has been played out before in the Color Revolution playbook. But what say you?
Hello, Todd. How are you doing? It's always a great pleasure, in fact, to come on your show and to discuss, in fact, the situation. And actually, I have to say that the news are very rich for the last 2 to 3 weeks, at a point that we are not sleeping a lot.
Yeah.
And I had to deal with a terrible event for the last 24 hours, which is frightening me kind of a lot in regard of the situation in France and the people that we are representing, we patriots that want to protect, in fact, the interest of our nation, which is France and not Europe. I was in contact for several years with Eric Denessé. He used to be in our intel services within the Marine, like Scott Ritter. Actually, this is the equivalence. When he left, he has been building like an intelligence services for economy. And we have been discussing very often the situation in Ukraine, and especially my experience of Maidan and what has been developing after that, and the reason why we have been heading a situation of crisis between Ukraine and Russia. After my trip from Moscow, in which I have been staying about 2 weeks, and I've been learning a lot in regard of the context and meeting with executive there, I was supposed, in fact, to meet with Eric Denessé, in fact, to debrief and to discuss, in fact, the way that the international situation was evolving. I have been hearing yesterday that Eric Denessé has been committing suicide. But I do not believe a second. For one reason, I was supposed to meet with him, which means, in other terms, that somebody that has the intention, in fact, to collect international economic intelligence is not about, in fact, to commit a suicide. This guy was a brilliant individual. Everybody within our community in France knows him. He was like a reference in terms of integrity, in terms of patriotism, in terms of intelligence. This guy was really, really sharp individual. And hearing that he has killed himself was a terrible shock, a really, really terrible shock for us. So basically, we have been hearing also that Macron has been setting up a black cabinet, in fact, to eliminate whoever would not be in the line of his way of thinking. 2 weeks ago, General de Lavarde has been dying of a stroke. But everybody knows, any doctors know, that somebody that is willing to have a stroke has some premise at the beginning.
Yeah.
1 second. Voilà. And somebody that is willing to have a stroke will have difficulties to speak. He will have difficulties, in fact, to understand concept. He will have some problems of a face problem with the muscle and this and that. And here we know that General de Lavarde was giving speeches on TV, on shows, on different networks every week. We've never seen any sign that would have been showing, in fact, that he will be hit by a stroke. So basically now our community is just aware that we are becoming target because we are not thinking the way that this guy is thinking. And this guy is extremely dangerous in regard of his behavior and the way that he's conducting the tension over nations, in fact, to bring us to a conflict with Russia. Now that this is said, I would like, in fact, to make a parallel between the situation that United States is facing in Los Angeles and what has been happening on Maidan. And there is a common denominator here. And this denominator is called Open Society of George Soros.
Mm-hmm.
This guy has been financing the coup of Maidan. And actually, there was a lot of NGOs that has been financed. One was a French one. It was called, there was first a Polish one, Open Dialogue Foundation. And the second one, the French one, was Cosmopolitan Project Foundation. Mm-hmm. And those guys were receiving funds in the way that would be financing, in fact, all the neo-Nazi party to overthrow Yanukovych. What we're seeing here in the US is exactly the same situation. A president has been newly elected. His name is Donald Trump. And George Soros goes against the policy of Donald Trump. He is financing the Black Lives Matters. He is financing the immigration in the US, which is illegal, especially in the volume that has been occurring. 20 million immigrants in few years. This is like the expression of a strong will to reverse completely, in fact, the demographic of a country. And if this guy want to do so, this is because he want to take the control out of the society of United States. And this story of Open Society, this is about, in fact, to dilute the real American people in the way that they will be applying their global agenda. So what we're seeing here is that the Democrats that are running California are taking advantage of this immigration, and instead of calming down the situation, they are pouring oil on it in the way that the situation will be rotting and putting the blame on the president Donald Trump, because the agenda is about to make him failing regarding the way that he wants to conduct his policy. And this is an outrage because this is not respecting the Constitution of the United States. And it seems to me that the Democrats right now, helped by a wing of the Republicans, they are pushing to trigger a civil war within the United States. And this is exactly what those guys have been doing on Maidan. They say, oh, we don't like the government. We are going to finance some extremist group, the way that the Mexican and all the immigrants are financed today. And they have been setting up a coup. And I believe that if they continue like this, this is going to happen in the United States. So basically, the governor of California, who is financed by the same guy right now, is just trying, in fact, to substitute himself in terms of policy to the government of United States. This is called, in fact, secession. This is sedition.
And well, you know, one of the issues we have is that they're not stopping the financing. I mean, the terror financing is still going on. So DOJ is not going after that, which is a huge, huge, huge issue. So anyway, go ahead.
Well, this is just an outrage. And you remember a few months ago, I was discussing this situation. And I was saying, in fact, to General Valley, I don't understand why Donald Trump is not neutralizing this guy. Mm-hmm. The Open Society organization need to be set as a terrorist organization. They are setting up coup. They have been destabilizing Georgia. They have been destabilizing Abkhazia. They have been destabilizing Ukraine. They tried, in fact, to destabilize Belarus and so on. So basically, what is this guy about? Is he acting like the CIA? Is he acting like a terrorist organization? This has to go at a certain time because there are some rules that are established within society, and we need, in fact, to respect them. He is not of the law. He is not above the law. He needs, in fact, to respond to the law. And actually, what is scaring me is that now that he's becoming extremely old, where his son is taking, in fact, advantage, and he will run, in fact, the same type of policy. Don't forget who is he and who is he belonging to. He is an LGBT guy, so basically he's in the right line of whatsoever his father has been setting up as a way to handle the population. In fact, those guys, what they are looking after is to trigger chaos everywhere they are setting up their offices.
Yeah.
And so basically, I'm just wondering why we are not stopping them, you know?
Well, we had a comment here. Amy Williams says, why hasn't the FBI arrested Soros? The same reason no one else has been arrested. So that's exactly what you're talking about, that we need to take action against these people. You're seeing them arrest guys throwing rocks, but really not the guys at the top that are bringing the trucks full of rocks to be thrown. You know, so that's in the US, we have to do that.
Can you realize that the son of Soros is coming inside of the Elysee as if he was a VIP? Who is this guy in regard of the relationship that the state need to have with another? He is a nobody. And he's just representing transversal organization that should not have anything to do with the way that our state need to be run. And this is an outrage. You know, we arrived to a point that the population right now is exhausted. Our country has been completely ruined on the economical point of view. We have a level of bankruptcies that are absolutely colossal. And I was in Paris 48 hours ago. I was invited in the Russian embassy for their event. And actually, I was kind of happy to hear that Rubio was congratulating the people of Russia, because it seems that, in fact, he has been understanding that diplomacy has to take over, in fact, conflictual way, in fact, to handle the relationship between states.
We recommend you take this moment to do what we're about to do, which is enjoy an Alp.
This is a special report.
Knowing how to invest your money is harder than ever before. Dealing with stock market volatility, record debt, and terrorist attacks requires new thinking. At U.S. Asset Management, we can help you see the world more clearly so that you can move beyond the chaos and invest with confidence. Call us, visit us online, or drop by our office. U.S. Asset Management, helping you make better decisions with your money.
And I have been discussing with a lot of people in the street, taking taxis, going in a hotel, and so on. And what I have been measuring is a level of anger and anxiety that you cannot even believe or imagine, because everybody wants to stop this conflict, and Macron is putting oil on the fire to continue to arm the Ukrainian, and on top of it, to try to silence the people that are reasonable. You know, we have a former director of our GSC, which is in fact the equivalent of the CIA, that is saying exactly the same thing of what the administration of Donald Trump is saying. He said, we need to calm down. We need, in fact, to look at the things on a more reasonable way, because this stuff can drift to something we wouldn't be able, in fact, to control. You remember what has been happening Sundays 2 weeks ago, when, in fact, the Ukrainians, they have been attacking the strategic vector carrying nuclear weapons. This could not have been happening if information wouldn't have been leaking from the CIA. And it seems to me that there is a part of this organization that is in line with whatsoever the administration of Trump is putting together, but there is another part that is going completely against whatsoever has been defined in terms of policy line. And this is very dangerous, because, you know, the START agreement is such that each party, meaning Russia and the United States, are giving the visibility of their strategic weapon, okay? So basically, if one is moving, the other will be moving. If nobody is moving, then we are living in a stable world, and there is no nuclear risk at all.
Yes, yes.
So basically, if this has been happening, it means that somebody has been leaking information. And this is extremely dangerous because the level of confidence between the two parties can collapse anytime. And what I have been observing and understanding from the discussion I had with the Russian part is that the confidence right now has been melting to a level of 0. So you remember in middle of April, I was in a conference with a certain numbers of politicians and journalists in the Cambridge University, and there was a representative of the CIA. And when this person has been finishing a speech, the first question I have been asking her is the following: who are you representing? Because whatsoever you have been saying for the last hour goes completely against the policy that your government has been putting together. So basically, are you representing the World Economic Forum? Are you representing the CIA? Are you representing yourself? I want to understand. Because whatsoever you are doing and saying right now goes totally against your own government. And this is an outrage, because she should have a right of reserve and make sure that whatsoever she's saying is exactly the mirror of what her government has been deciding. So what I am understanding here is that there is a wing of the CIA that will go always against what Donald Trump is going to do. And this is extremely dangerous because this is going to secession. How are you going to handle this stuff? And actually, this is something that I wanted you to do, is that to take the book I have been writing, Ukraine Warning to the World, and send it, in fact, to Kash Patel in the way that he understands what has been happening there, but also to Tulsi Gabbard in the way that she will be acquiring the right information. Because it seems to me that in the surrounding of the president, the right information is not going through in the way that we would be able, in fact, to solve this conflict. We need to stop. It's becoming a way too dangerous right now. You see? Especially when you see what is happening in the Middle East. Because, you know, the situation for Russia and United States can be extremely tricky. United States has an interest, in fact, to protect Israel. But the way that Israel is conducting its policy regarding Iran start to be extremely dangerous. Iran is not Iraq. Iran is not the Gaza Strip. It is not the Hamas. This is a 90 million people that is extremely well armed. They have a number of missiles that they have been building for the last 20 years. That is very scary. What the guys they want to do? On top of it, Iran is backed up by Russia, but Russia is playing like a sort of moderator, because inside of Israel, they have about 1.2 million Russian people living in Tel Aviv. So basically, they are obliged, in fact, to manage the goat and the cabbage. You see, they try, in fact, to moderate the situation and not, in fact, to poison it. Fortunately, Vladimir Putin is a kind of guy that is thinking coldly and will never react on the moment and on the emotional level. Fortunately, we have this guy in charge, because if it was Medvedev, I don't know what would be the situation today.
Yeah.
See?
Yes, all very good points. I want to just highlight the book you mentioned while we were talking about it. Sorry, the wrong one. There we go. Ukraine, a Warning to the World. You can get this at historyofbooks.com or anywhere books are sold. Please check it out. Lots of good information that you will learn about and what's happening in that part of the world. Thierry, what else? Is there anything else you want to get out? Because I do think that what you're seeing in LA and other parts of the country today, tomorrow, all over the country, is a very color revolution style revolt that is being funded and executed and planned by the same type of people.
Mm-hmm. Well, until now, you know that Vladimir Putin has been promising that he will be responding to the attack of the spider net that has been put together by the Ukrainian SBU in a very harsh manner. For the moment, he's retaining his horse. I wish that this will continue and he will not make any mistakes that would be rotting the situation to the point that the European, for whatsoever reason, will be interfering. Because I don't know where this will go. Now, I'm not very much worrying regarding what is happening in Ukraine, because this conflict is going to end by itself due to the fact that the motivation on the Ukrainian side is completely collapsing. And Zelensky starts to realize that the only move that he has to do is to run away from the country in the way that we can solve the situation. Nevertheless, the big interrogation is going to be what Iran is going to do, because they cannot not react. If they are not reacting, in fact, the regime that is in place will be kicked out, period. They will not have any credibility. But on the other side, if they react, they will make it very harsh. How the United States are going to react in regard of the fact that the Iranian regime is backed up by Russia. And China is not very much happy about the situation, because don't forget, they are investing a lot on the Belt and Road Initiative on the South Corridor. And what they want to do is business. If this region is completely destabilized, in fact, all the supply chain in the world are going to collapse. And at the end of the story, we're all going to pay the price. This region is extremely sensitive. And on top of it, because this is the region that is producing the biggest amount of oil. So basically, as all our economy right now in Europe and in the United States are extremely fragile due to the level of debt that has been contracted, what is going to happen if the barrel is going to $100 to $120? We are going to face a major collapse. This story has to stop, And what is going to happen in the next 48 hours is really, really scary. Really scary.
I completely agree. Thierry, thanks for your time. We'll have you back next week as things progress in Ukraine and around the world, because I think you've got your finger on all these points that are very important. So thank you very much.
Well, actually, I am heading to Moscow because I will have to comment the speeches that Vladimir Putin is going to give in St. Petersburg summit, and I will be live on Russia Today, France.
Keep us in the flow of information. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Claude. Have a good day.